In this video, you will discover how the definitive frontier between the digital and physical worlds has been broken and how the logic of software is starting to reprogram the very matter you consume. Yes, to be very clear, I'm talking about your food, generating the paradox of abundance, which is this: when manufacturing becomes code, scarcity becomes obsolete. To illustrate, look at patent US 12/277/518 granted to Hyphen Technologies. It describes a modular assembly system that is not just a machine for making delicious dishes, but the materialization of an AI native factory capable of operating in a fully autonomous model, what we call lights out. This proves that industrial production is ceasing to be a fixed physical operation to become a reconfigurable data flow. Honestly, this means your experience of reality changes completely. I will explain it to you. If the production of essential items like your food starts operating with the flexibility of plug-and-play software, the immediate consequence is that the cost structure of your daily life is about to suffer an efficiency shock. And that is what we are going to talk about today. Hello, I am Fernando Diaz. Welcome to 2029, the Great Disruption. In Dossier 1, you will understand the engineering of evolution behind the modular system that transforms kitchens into high-precision assembly lines, commanding all the food produced for you. In Dossier 2, you will meet the mind behind the machine, where open-source AI models running locally guarantee privacy and speed without relying on the cloud, capable of defining every type of dish you eat. And in the third dossier, you will discover how the trend of hyperlocal microfactories is redesigning the geopolitics of production to increase efficiency and bring pollution down to zero right where your food is produced. Let's start. Dossier 1. The immediate evidence, the chassis of abundance. Guys, let's be honest. When you open the Uber Eats app on a Tuesday night, exhausted from work, you are not worried about the engineering behind your dinner. You just want it to arrive hot and fast. But patent US 12/277/518, recently granted to Hyphen Technologies, reveals that what is in the kitchen might not be a stressed cook anymore, but a modular food assembly system that redefines the very economy of production. Listen to this. This system is not a simple vending machine. It is the materialization of the AI native factory, or what we call a lights-out operation, designed to function in the dark without human intervention for repetitive tasks. In practice, it possesses an autonomous assembly zone where dispenser modules and a conveyor belt assemble standardized orders with millimeter precision. Think with me. If the machine does the heavy lifting, the marginal cost of producing that salad or that bowl drops drastically. Honestly, as someone who lived 55 years fascinated by the workings of a simple microwave, seeing technology attack the root of operational cost is fascinating. I live here in the Amazon and I see how logistics make everything expensive. But this machine proposes something different: absolute local efficiency. The system utilizes sensors that monitor temperature and ingredient quantity in real time, transforming the kitchen into a predictable data flow. This means predictive maintenance. In other words, the machine warns it is going to break before leaving you stranded. Look at this. The real innovation here is the design of modular and self-reconfigurable cells. The modules are plug and play, which allows the same station to switch from producing smoothies to sandwiches just by changing a part, without tools, without drama. It is the flexibility of software applied to steel and plastic. To give you an idea, this solves the operational nightmare of any food business: demand variability. Now, be careful with this. Mechanical efficiency is beautiful, but a body without a mind is just dead weight. The patent describes a controller, a digital brain that orchestrates all of that, but that brain needs an intelligence that goes beyond simple rules of if this, then that. The efficiency of 2029 solved your physical hunger, but what will you do in Dossier 2 when you realize the machine starts predicting what you want to eat before you even feel hungry? Now, let's move to Dossier 2, where you will discover how open-source artificial intelligence is being implanted inside these machines to guarantee total privacy and how that changes the way you pay for what you consume. remembering that in our final dossier we will still talk about the most important subject, that is, how this decentralized technology can save the global economy from climate collapse. Dossier 2. The friction of evolution. The local mind. Pay attention here. The hardware I showed you in Dossier 1 is the body, but now we need to talk about the soul of this system. And I am not talking about soul in the mystic sense, but about the cognitive capacity to process the chaos of reality. The top 9 open source AI models report shows us that the intelligence needed to operate these factories no longer needs to come from a giant server in the cloud. It can run locally on the device itself. Imagine, we are talking about models like Llama 3.370B or Gemma 3.27B, integrated directly into the machine's controller. This changes everything. Why? Privacy and latency. As a psychologist, I value secrecy above all else. And knowing that the data of your restaurant's operation or your diet isn't traveling through the internet to be sold out there is a relief. The data remains local. Furthermore, the machine's decision is made in milliseconds without depending on that unstable internet we know well. It works like this. The controller analyzes the characteristics of your order. If it is for delivery, if there are dietary restrictions, and dynamically distributes tasks between the robotic zone and the manual zone. Yes, there is still a manual zone for delicate tasks like slicing an avocado, because technology respects human dexterity where it is irreplaceable. It is the perfect symbiosis. The robot does the repetitive, you do the art. Once I was watching 2001, A Space Odyssey, one of my favorite movies, for the technical precision, of course, and I kept thinking about HAL 9000. The fear there was autonomy without control. Here, autonomy serves to liberate. The business model also evolves to what we call equipment as a service, EaaS. Instead of the restaurant owner going into debt with Capital One to buy the machine, they pay per produced dish, transforming a monstrous fixed cost into a manageable variable expense. It is the Uberization of industrial capital. Do you notice the difference? You stop buying the tool and start subscribing to the result. This democratizes access to cutting-edge technology, allowing the small entrepreneur to compete with big chains. But here is the key point. If the machine learns, adapts, and on top of that charges for service, who is the true owner of the means of production? The friction here isn't between man and machine, but between who owns the code and who depends on it to survive. And for you to better understand these new geopolitics of production is why I will still explain the revolution of hyperlocal microfactories in the next dossier. Therefore, keep watching. Dossier 3. The flowering of consciousness. The end of distance. We reach the horizon. If in Dossier 1 we saw the body and in Dossier 2 we saw the mind, now we are going to look at the ecosystem where this new life inhabits. The concept of hyperlocal microfactory is not just a pretty word, it is a survival response to a fragmented world. The era of manufacturing everything in China and shipping it in polluting containers is over. Write this down. We are talking about small modular facilities geographically close to you. Why is this happening now? Regulatory pressure. Mechanisms like the European Union's Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, CBAM, are heavily taxing freight emissions. This forces production to be local. It is the return of made in the neighborhood, but with 2050 technology. Besides, we face a brutal labor crisis with projections of almost 2 million unfilled jobs in manufacturing by 2030. It's not that machines are stealing jobs, it's that there aren't enough humans wanting those mechanical jobs. I see this with a mix of hope and caution. As someone who loves traveling through Europe and seeing history in every corner of Toledo, it fascinates me to think that the future of industry looks more like local craftsmanship than the smokestacks of the Industrial Revolution. These AI-native factories allow for resilient production, which doesn't stop because a ship got stuck in the Suez Canal. It is radical decentralization. Look, this creates an economic fabric where the scarcity of critical materials and energy security are mitigated by short and diversified supply chains. For you, this means the price of what you consume ceases to be held hostage by international geopolitics. Stability returns to the dinner table, But the silence of this new factory is deafening. A facility that operates alone, optimizes alone, and fixes itself alone. Where is the human warmth in all this? It is in creativity, in management, in empathy, things that code, no matter how open it is, will never have. The flowering of consciousness comes when we stop doing robot work and start exploring the human potential that remained dormant for centuries of manual labor. Finally, we reach the point where everything connects. The modular machine, the local AI mind, and the factory that lives next door. Remembering that before finishing the video, I will still leave you a conclusive analysis on how you should position yourself professionally so as not to be just a spectator of this revolution, but a protagonist. That silent factory I described at the beginning, operating in the dark and without human intervention, is not a cold scenario of exclusion, but the furnace that is forging your freedom. Think with me, when matter behaves like software, scarcity ceases to be a law of physics and becomes a design choice. And for the first time in 55 years, I see a horizon where your cost of living can collapse while the value of your creativity explodes. My final message is strategic. Do not try to compete with the speed of the robotic arm. Assume your place as the architect who designs the flow, because in this new world, whoever just pushes buttons will be replaced, but whoever decides which button must be pushed will be the owner of the game. And look, as this channel is just starting, you have a rare opportunity to dictate our investigative agenda. Write in the comments which sector of the economy you want me to dissect in the next video, because I'm going to read everything and produce the content our tribe asks for in order of arrival. I'm your chronological investigator, and I will see you in the future. Bye.